UCF's first home game in Big 12 play in their school's history results in a win, 65-60. They emerge victorious over the Kansas Jayhawks, the number 2 team in the AP poll, the number 19 team, according to KenPom. Card, I don't know that I've ever seen a discrepancy that large for a team ranked as highly as Kansas. Like, it's very rare. You see a team that the computers tell you is like maybe 20th, be ranked second in the country. Is this a sign that Kansas is fraudulent?
I think it is in this regard. Kansas right now has 2 players, and I say 2, and I mean 2, right? I think they have 2 basketball players that are surefire, really, really good on a consistent basis. If one of those 2 do not show up and play to their ability, they could get beat on any given night, in my opinion. And it was very evident in this game that Kansas was just they were shook. Hunter Dickinson was in foul trouble in this game. They ended this game with 17 turnovers. Kevin McCullough had 5. KJ Adams had 4. Dwan Harris Jr. had 3. I mean, everyone chipped in with a turnover in this game, and they just weren't able to get over the hump. Hunter Dickinson only played 28 minutes in this game because of foul trouble. And I think you're starting to see this isn't like a one-off kind of game to me. This is a like you look at the AP poll, you look at the KenPom poll. Maybe you're like that difference means something. You look at previous Sleepers Media episodes, and you hear one of the hosts, GregWaddell, tell you that this Kansas team is not a top 3 team in the country, and you take that to heart. And look, Kansas is not like you stated, a top 5 team in the country. Are they top 25? Yes, they are. Are they going to compete for a Big 12 title still? Yes, I truly believe they are. Kevin McCullough and Hunter Dickinson are that good. But this has all the makings and the smell and the makeup of a team that loses in the first weekend of the tournament because a team can take out one of McCullough or Hunter Dickinson. And look, they lose this game to UCF, they could easily be on a 2-game losing streak in the Big 12 if it wasn't for a great acting job by Hunter Dickinson at the game at home against TCU. So this is like pull up your alert system, green, orange, red. This is like red alert. There's actually issues with Kansas basketball.
Yeah. Yep. I think you hit it. I was going to make that point next. They should be 0-2 in Big 12 play. And look, you can debate that all you want. Like, they won the game in the end, so they're 1-1. But that TCU game was a very dicey basketball game that Kansas got outplayed in for much of that game at home against the Horned Frogs. And then there was questionable calls that sealed the game. So they are dangerously close to being 0-2 in the Big 12. And that's not something we really ever see from Bill Self's group. And the reality is the Big 12 is loaded, man. Like, they added some good basketball teams this year. I know we have questions on, like, what are the new additions actually going to do? BYU's sitting there 0-2 in the conference. But, like, this is top to bottom the deepest league in college basketball. There's not really many off nights. And Kansas doesn't look ahead of the pack right now. Like, go around and watch every other Big 12 game. Just tap in for 5 minutes and see what you're seeing. The eye test doesn't pass with Kansas. Like, they don't look ahead of anybody. So I don't know. It's interesting. Dickinson is so critical to them, and I'm obviously familiar with Dickinson being critical to your team, but it's one of those things where, like, he has to play 35 minutes, I think, to get conference wins. Like, 28 minutes isn't enough from a guy that's that good and that important. And quite frankly, they don't have another option. Like, are you going to Parker Brown? Really? Like, that's the second center on this team. And I know like Uday left, and I don't think people really thought it was a huge loss at the time. I know some Kansas fans, shout out Braden Turner, were like, this is a really big one. Like, he matters, but they don't have a big that can even give them solid minutes behind Dickinson, right? So he becomes their everything in more ways than just on the court.
Yeah, I mean, and look, when you look at it outside of Dickinson in this game, you look at other Kansas losses or Kansas maybe losses that could have happened. It was a McCullough and Dickinson are playing amazing, but they're getting nothing from the Timberlakes, the Furfies of the world. I mean, Furphy was 4 for 8 in this game, 9 points, 4 rebounds in only 17 minutes. Nick Timberlake actually hit 2 shots in this game, which for him is a positive
Yeah, it's like
in
a
10
20-point
minutes.
night. It's like a 20-point
Yeah,
night.
yeah, it's like he exploded for 30. So they got it from other, but you're just not gonna win a basketball game as a Kansas basketball team when Hunter Dickinson's playing 28 minutes and he's in foul trouble. That's just not gonna happen. They don't have the star, they don't have the talent, I think, outside of him to have him only have like 12.4 rebound nights and be in foul trouble with 28 minutes. And look, I mean, you look at just if you're box score watching this game, you'll be like, oh, did Kansas miss shots? Kansas shot 51% from the field. Made 6 threes, 33%, like respectable. Did Central Florida just go nuclear? Central Florida shot 42% from the field, made 7 threes, 35% from the field. You can maybe point to free throws where Kansas was 6 for 11 from the free throw line, but like it's not like they had a nuclear Central Florida game that just they couldn't like they couldn't bounce back for that. To put it in the Big Ten terms, a lot of the Purdue fans were like, "Oh, there's nothing we could do." Nebraska shot 63% from the field. Central Florida didn't play that great,
Yeah.
and they beat you. That's concerning.
Yeah, and they jumped right on him in the second half. Kansas was actually up 8 points at halftime in this game, and that doesn't really feel like it, honestly, looking back on it. But yeah, it's got to be scary because you're right. This was not UCF was a 10 out of 10 game. This was like UCF just showed up and was UCF, and Kansas had no answers for it. The most concerning number, if we were to pick a number from this game for Kansas for me, was the turnover problem. 18 turnovers in this game. Kevin McCullough had 5 himself, as you alluded to. DeJuan Harris had 3. KJ Adams had 4. Every starter for Kansas had at least 2 turnovers in this game. That's not good. You're not going to win most nights on the road when that happens, obviously. But it's worse for me when you are a team that has a point guard in DeJuan Harris who is supposed to be such an elite game manager and, quite frankly, who is such a liability in everything else other than taking care of the basketball. Like if you're going to have 18 turnovers in a game, that DeJuan Harris is your point guard, what is DeJuan Harris giving you? And I don't mean to put all the turnover issues on him. He had 8 assists to 3 turnovers in this game. Like he was the best guy on the team in terms of taking care of the ball here. But I just don't see the value. I don't see how that can happen if you're playing a guy who is so limited in other areas.
Exactly, because this is always how the conversation goes. Have you if like during the season, during the off season, earlier in the season, if us were going to Kansas fans and being like, why is DeJuan Harris playing so much? So it seems like sometimes he doesn't do things offensively, kind of is too tentative, not aggressive. And the answer is, oh, he controls the team, he controls the pace, he takes care of the ball. Then why do we have 17 turnovers in the game? And yes, I get it. He didn't do it all, but by having him on the court, technically, speaking on it just in a broad overlook, you shouldn't be turning over the basketball as a team that much because you have DeJuan Harris on the floor. But that was not the case.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just like the give and the take, right? You would expect to be great at the one thing DeJuan Harris is supposed to be great at and impact the game on if he's going to be out there. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know where this Kansas team goes. I don't want to ask, like, are they going to win the Big 12? I don't think they would be the favorite right now, clearly. But I want to ask you this because you got Baylor, Texas Tech, and Kansas State all sitting there at 2-0. You got a bunch of teams at 1-1 in conference play, including Houston, including Iowa State, who looks good, including Oklahoma, who looks good, Texas, who you still believe in the talent of, including this UCF team that beat them. If you're actually putting teams in order of their caliber in this conference, where is Kansas?
I probably would have them
Because for the record,
third.
for the record, Ken Pom has them 5th, 1 spot ahead of 6th in Oklahoma.
I'd have them third.
Behind who?
Baylor and Houston.
Okay. Okay. I think it's going to get real dicey for them. I'll stick with you and say third right now. I think Houston's clearly better. I would personally pick Baylor, but I think they're similar to Kansas. I think there's a chance teams like Iowa State overtake them over the course of the year. And I really am coming around on Iowa State, but like at least Iowa State does something elite, right? Like they are an elite defense with a really good point guard. I don't know what Kansas does elite. Like they're a good defense. They're not a great defense. They're an okay offense. Like they're not going to beat themselves most nights, but they're there for the taking for the first time in a really long time that I've looked at a Kansas team and been like, yeah, teams can get them night in and night out. So it's going to be scary hours. We'll see. They got Oklahoma next this weekend. I think we'll have a preview up for that on the channel. So stay tuned. Subscribe to Sleepers Media so you don't miss any of our previews and recaps throughout the year.